On today's episode of I Do Film, we have Malkia Milk Hornsby. Kenyan-American born, Howard University grad, Malkia Milk Hornsby serves as one half of the multi-platinum, Grammy Award-winning super duo Milk Sizz. Her music and songwriting has made amazing contributions into some of your favorites like FX's Atlanta, ABC's Modern Family, VH1's Hit the Floor, BET's All the Queen's Men, and so much more. I Do Film family, let's welcome Malkia Milk Hornsby. Hi, Milk. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you on the I Do Film with Cordelia Hunter. I do want to make a note very early on that it's really Milk and Sizz, and you are one half of that dynamic duo.
Thank you. Yes, we are too.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to jump right in a little bit. And I'm going to talk a little mess because you went to what everybody says, HU. I'm a Grambling graduate.
Oh,
but
listen, that's fine.
It's always good to have some HBCU love in the house. So once again, welcome again. And, let's just be able to sit here and enjoy this great conversation and, spit some jewels out to the community.
Of course.
So we're going to warm up a little bit. I'm going to see where your head is with a little bit of this or that. Okay. Listening to an album or watching a movie?
Definitely watching a movie.
Blue cheese or ranch?
Blue cheese.
Movie soundtrack or studio albums?
That one's hard. Studio albums that are put to soundtrack.
I like that answer. Music for movies or music for TV?
Music. That's hard. Music for both. I know I can't I know it's this or that, but it's kind of both. I think my best answer would be drama. Drama all around. Those make the best songs.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. And why do you say that?
Well, because it's the emotion, like everybody, like I'm an up-tempo that's kind of what I was originally known for, being an up-tempo writer. But I mean, I also write really strong, ballads and emotional music and stuff like that. So for me, those are just a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more complicated. You're trying to write it and pace it to the scene. So I like both, but I like the drama of it. Yeah.
You are a mother and a wife. You are an executive producer, and you are a multi-genre songwriter.
Yes, first.
On top of that, you and Sizz, which is Milk and Sizz, the duo couple, is Grammy and Latin Grammy award-winning
writer and producer.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, because music was the first, I'm assuming, to break you into this industry.
Yes.
How did you come about getting into the music industry?
My first start, actually, I got my placement. He had placements before we got together. So we've been together about 15 years. This year, September, will be 12 years married. Yes. So with that, at the beginning of our relationship, I didn't want to do music with him. So I was just starting out as a songwriter, and I was getting my bearings. I hadn't had any placements yet. I was just like, no. And really, the joke between us and private circles is always like, I just wanted to make sure he was dope. If he wasn't dope, I just didn't want to do the work. You ever see someone who's kind of like touting their significant other like they're this amazing human, and then you're like, you hear it or you see it or whatever it is in the medium that they work in, and you're just like, no, I really prefer you. I like you to this other person. No, he's just amazing. So I ended up hearing some of his music, and that's when we really started like kicking off working together. But my first placement was with Geffen. I got kind of like notoriously known for writing with girl groups, and I started writing for pretty much all the girl groups and all these like super high intensity up-tempo records. Things like that.
So what was your first girl group that you wrote for?
Girlicious.
Really?
I know. Pussycat Dolls put on this whole... So it's like I always kind of got into like this aside of TV, aside of film, because of the way I wrote and the way that I would present on paper when it came to like lyrics. I'm very, into lyric and melody. So that was kind of cool where, the CW show at the time the Pussycat Dolls presents Girlicious, they came out with the group, they got the album going, and then that was my first placement. So
okay, because I was going to say, understanding how you got into the music industry, how did you switch over into the film industry? I see that you have notable works of Atlanta, ABC's Modern Family, VH1's Hit the Floor, and I Feel Pretty, which I really enjoyed that movie starring Amy Schumer. How was, like, how do you even get the creativity to go in and even compose songs for film shows or TV shows?
I think the best way to describe what music is so universal, and I think it always for me starts with a really good song. Right? So a good song translates to all mediums. So I don't just, when Sizz and I first started working in the television and film space, our biggest thing was, if you would write it for an A-list artist, it deserves to also be written that way and produced that way for television and film. When we joined into that space back in 2014, it was, great composers were out there, but, every production is so rushed most of the time. From my experience, production is like everybody's working on the film, everybody's working on the television show, everybody's getting it done. And then at the 25th hour, everybody's thinking about music. And so even, as of the last 3-4 years during the pandemic and even before, we were kind of like, hey, talking to a lot of directors, talking to a lot of creatives, talking to them to let them know, like, hey, let us think about music so you don't have to, right? In support of your music supervisor, not as a replacement for your music supervisor, but let us think about your sonic identity. Let's think about what you want your film to sound like. What do you want your show to sound like? Let's kind of create those vibes early, because a great song is still needed. You still want a great song.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, the production is doing what they need to do behind the scenes to do the filming. When does it actually come to you all to put music to the TV show or the feature film that you're working on?
Usually late. Really? We finally scored our first film with the help of Jeff Fisher, who was amazing. And that was like, an old film that he had. So, but it usually is something after the fact. I think maybe once or twice, because we work on a lot of shorts as well, that those creative, because I know those directors, I know those editors, they come to us ahead of time because they're like, hey, most of the times they're trying to replace songs. They put a lot of filler songs into stuff and they're trying to match a BPM, match a tempo. And I'm like, if you could just start how you want to finish, then you can, show it early. But I get it. It's a creative process. I can't tell you how to produce a film. You can't tell me how to write a song, right? So it's like, you know what you want it to feel like. And so the creativity between those two worlds, I think, just deserves so much more of a conversation. Yeah. And those are conversations we're having.
Right. So what is the creative process like when you're actually creating music for TV and film?
So I kind of can write to anything. So that's kind of the fun part about working alongside me and my team, is that we are kind of like full service. So someone would send out a brief, a creative brief that says, I need this, this, and this, and this. Usually it's very lengthy and involves a lot of words that are probably not exactly what they want. So if I'm able, which I'm grateful for the new space, starting out earlier on, you don't get to have a conversation with the director or the editor or anything like that. Now we kind of do, just by working in the space for a long time. And earlier, you just get a brief, they send you some stuff. And so I say, do it for me, do it for you. Do exactly what you asked me to do, exactly to the T, and then send you an iteration that is, what I really think you want based on what you said. So being able to deduce, look at what they're asking for in their creative brief and say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but let me send you 2 versions if that's okay. And a lot of times that was what worked. And that's how we got a lot of the placements, because we were able to work with those agencies or creative teams or music supervisors and say, hey, can we send you this? Because they may say 80s, but then they really wanted 90s. or they really wanted, our first big TV thing was with Jamie Foxx, doing Laugh-A-Palooza. And so we always joke about how, LaRonda and team at the time was sending out this brief like, hey, we want big band mixed with hip hop, it's like, and we had like 48 hours to create it.
Wow.
Like, it was,
that's crazy.
The timelines. I think, we don't do anything else. We must talk about the deadlines. Yes. And the reason why there's such critical deadlines is because it's going to go forward. Okay. However, people are also, not taking into account the fact that it probably takes a little bit of time to create these things. Yeah. These things don't just appear.
It's so ironic because just to speak a little bit more on that, so when they come to you and give you the script or the one page or whatever and ask you, are they giving that to multiple music composers? And
Absolutely.
So
I'm just one of a million probably people who get it, as an exaggeration, of course, but I'd love to be thought of first, but I know that this likelihood, even my first placement just in the music industry was not like that. So many other writers tried to do what I was able to do. And so I don't take that for granted. I don't take that for granted and say, like, I think hubris gets in the way of so many creatives of thinking like, oh, well, it has to be. And then there's a way to modify, like I said, there's a way to modify the process, right? Because the process doesn't always work for the creatives involved.
Absolutely.
But you can't do that from the sidelines. You can't complain about it on the bench. You got to say, okay, let me get in the game. And what was your timeline? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm one of those people who can meet pretty much any deadline at the highest level. That's the goal, right? That's the gift. If you have the gift of time and you have the gift of being a full service or 360 or just all in kind of creative, you can just kind of like get it done and knock it out and still be able to create your, we call it Insta Vibe for us. Okay. Before there was an Instagram, we used to call it Insta Vibe, where you just get in, create it with whatever artist, with whatever, so we look at projects the same way. We look at television and film the same way we look at artists. Yeah. We look at the director. Now the director is the A-list artist who has a specific vision, and if you don't knock that out, then you're off the project. It's just that simple. It's the same concept. It's not different. No,
I think the only difference is I started off in the music industry and I worked for L.A. Reid's publishing company, Hitco Music Publishing, and now over here in the film industry, and all of this is by faith, I should say. But what I did notice, and tell me if I'm on the right track, like, film is about money and time. Like, it is completely on a time, even though music has, it's about money and time too, but it's a little bit more, to me, it's a little bit more laid back or lax to get things done. Whether film, it's call time, shoot, rap, do this, do that. Was it an easy adjustment with you guys, coming from the music sector side to come over to the film industry?
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Because we pride ourselves off of efficiency, right? And so this is why we get the call. Yes. We get the call because you have a deadline, you need it done, and you need it done right. That's why they call us. We were doing that in the music industry and in the space, and we still do, right? Yes. Where you show up at a certain time, you're there, and you're like, hey,
is anybody else here?
Is anybody else gonna be here today at this time? And, it's like the call sheets don't matter. None of that matters in the music and, on that side. Because, and I get it. Time is money on the other side. Time is money always, right? Absolutely. But I think that everybody can learn a little bit from each side, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So it's good that that, we can get it done. Yes, you have a deadline. Yes, we can make it happen. However, you can loosen the reins just a little bit to make sure that the creative process is fluid for all creatives involved, right? Because everybody involved on the film side is a creative in some way.
Yes. Absolutely.
In music, it's like, everybody is also a creative in some way, but they learn these behaviors and this time management and all. They learn that from their peers. Mm-hmm. So if you are around a bunch of efficient people, you will be efficient. Absolutely. If you are around a bunch of people who are just like, we'll get to it, we're just gonna hang out and chill for a minute, it's like,
then that's what you're gonna bear.
then that's what you're gonna bear that fruit. You're gonna, when somebody asks you to show up on time, you're gonna say, wait, like on time, or like time like 10 minutes? Are we starting 15 minutes behind? Are we starting, So it just depends. Yeah. It depends on who you're around also. Yeah.
Well, being consistent, like you said, working in the music industry and having those parameters of how you guys like to set yourself up really paid off when it came to the filming, because you were already set to be efficient and be on time and do what it is that you need to do. So sometimes, that lesson comes a little further down the line, but something that you're already home. So absolutely.
I just want to say,
yes,
I'm always late. Sizz is always early. I just want to get that out.
Okay. You hear that, Sizz? She's giving you your props.
If anybody hears this, they're going to be like, Milk, I'm on time. Never. It's Sizz. Sizz is the catalyst behind the timeliness. He gets it. I still have my process. I still have to get into the vibe and get into the mood. But everybody benefits from having that duality of being able to see us, push each other.
Speaking of giving him his props on being on time, and you're the one that's a little lacking. What is it like to be married and working together?
For us, that has been, so we started with love, right? We started with love first. Yes. And that's literally that's the cornerstone of our relationship. So everything else is secondary. We didn't start working together first. We started in a relationship, and I protect that first to say, okay, what is driving any issues, right? And generally it's always work, right? It's always work-based. It's always some type of project that is over-stressing or over-demanding or something. And we have to be able to step back and say, this isn't good for our real life, yes. Not our fake life, not our professional life. I think that's how we continue to keep what we do so special, because we speak the same language all the time. We've committed ourselves to growing together versus trying to grow apart, right. Whereas couples get, they season, let's call them seasons. Yeah. As they season, they tend to decide, okay, I'm this today and you're this, and now everybody's going on a different track. It's like, no, we always are committed to saying, hey, checking in. Are you guys, what's going on with this? Especially if it's project related. Like if something is behind, it becomes intense. Everybody's the emails are flying, demands are coming in, changes are being made. And it's like, no, how are you right now? Yeah. What's happening with you? Checking on that space, because that's the space that you guys created. We created a life before music. Right. So we have to continue that space.
And do you guys play the same roles when creating music? Both writers, one producer?
We are interchangeable.
Really?
Yeah. For the most part, as we always say, he's the main composer, I'm the main songwriter. Okay. Right? But there's times where I'm producing from a different lens, or he's writing songs alongside me, or he's completely fleshing out a side, and then I come in and I tighten things. We don't believe that we should, one person has to do one thing, and no one feels like they're stepping on each other's toes. If whatever the project requires, right? So especially if somebody's not in the space to create, and the project still requires timeliness, we talked about, right? Yeah. Somebody has to get it done. And we don't take that personally. That's our goal, to just say, hey, so here's what I finished. Here's where I need you. And so communicating at the highest level is how we keep our engine moving.
So going back to before you became a Howard University graduate, you are Kenyan American. And tell me about that, the culture. Does it play a part in your music?
So much.
Yeah.
It does. I think it took me a long time to get to the point where, I was always proud Kenyan, right? Like I was born in the States, so it's a much different experience where you're always kind of like going back and forth during different seasons of life. And I've been fortunate to spend a lot of time there. I've lost some family most recently that is, hurting my family currently, but my parents are there now. So we go back and forth quite a bit. My daughter's been twice. She's 4, so I always tell people, like, stamps are important.
Absolutely.
Getting them their stamps is important. Making sure they have passports. So she went at 5 months. I was there at 5 months. I've continued to grow. I won't say how old I am, but I'm old now. Older now, seasoned.
Yeah.
And so I believe that it has played such an integral part of how I hear music sonically, because I don't hear it like when Afrobeat started becoming like this amazing, cultural trend, and kind of like how it's been. Those frequencies have always played into how I create music, because it's music I learned early. Like, it's not music I haven't heard. Like, I've heard certain frequencies, a certain tone, a certain swing that's very different. Just being a child of the culture. So
absolutely,
I'm grateful for that.
And raising your daughter as well to be in that culture,
right? Because it's very different when you travel and you see more. I'm always telling, like, even my exposure, being Kenyan American and showing and sharing that with Sizz, it's like, it's different, like him having a passport, and that, like, imagine I had a passport since I was 5 months, right? And our daughter now has a passport since she's 5 months. But it took him, when we got married, to get a passport, and it's just like, well, this is cool. Like, you know what I mean? Not that he hadn't traveled all places I hadn't been throughout the States. However, my global perspective is continuing to drive our business forward, because as the world gets smaller, connections are made and space is made. The last project we just worked on with the Magic Jones,
yes,
earned its own Grammy nomination. We didn't take the win home, but just being nominated in a space that we hadn't been in a while, and in a new space, it just shows how you get to constantly live multiple lives in creation if you just open up and see something different.
Yeah, and just step out. And
it's just definitely step out.
Speaking of that, I said earlier that you were executive producer and a multi-Grammy winner and everything, but I did leave out author, which is amazing and huge. And looked like you did your first children's book. Yes. Was that the inspiration of your daughter?
Yes. I mean, a lot of the whole Magic Jones space, all of it really came from the birth of my daughter. So once she was born, I really, we waited a long time to have her, and we wanted to make sure, because our life is very busy prior to her arrival. So the balance of her arrival was required, so that, we can still be creative, but we can still, be parents, and we can kind of make all those worlds merge and meet. So that she drove a lot of that jumping into the children's space, because same thing, I always joke about, being in elevators and hearing music, and I'm like, somebody's getting paid for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's how I looked at television. That's how I looked at film. That's how I looked at the children's space, not from a monetary space, but it opens you up to a new world that you weren't even paying attention to. It's background noise until it's not.
Yes.
Right? So when you're watching movies, it's background noise until you're like, I could have did that. And then, like, people are hunting us down for songs. Like, Hit the Floor was crazy. People were hunting us down for songs that were not released to the public.
No, but
we're like, wow. We just got a call the other day from Mono. We did Digital Fox show, movie for Mono, and somebody's like literally looking now for a song that I'm like, so we have to, we're now realizing with our distribution company, we're going to have to release a lot of the stuff that we put on television and film, because they have not been 360 spaces have not been created. That's how I got into authorship, because of 360 space that's not created, right? So when I was thinking about the album for the Magic Jones and executive producing that, I didn't think about what all was needed, what verticals were needed to be hit. And that's the way I have to now think of things, because we've been constantly hit from that other side of when people are like, hey, we saw this. This was cool. Would love this, and this. And you're like, dang, I didn't even think about that. So now we have to automatically jump into 360 experiences. And that for me is where the authorship came from. Is I'm already writing songs. I was doing it. And not to, this is why I consider myself an author, but I'm always doing it from a space of love to not discount people who like, that's all they do. Right. It's like, I don't want to, I teach my daughter from a homeschool perspective, but I don't want to say I'm a teacher.
Right.
Because when you do that, sometimes I feel like it makes people feel like, oh, it's like, no, I did this. Right. I just did a thing. And I want you to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
I want you to enjoy it the way you enjoy the music. And it's coming from that same space, the same music space. I want you to be able to read the book to your child, listen to the lullabies, send them to sleep, or party and turn up with them with, the happy birthday song, whatever it is. I want you to feel like you're invited into a world, an experiential world.
Yeah. So speaking of, like I said, diversity and inclusion, how important for it not to be just to be a checkbox off of someone's agenda, but really getting into the root of it, of diversifying and, just like you said, you're not the teacher, but you're teaching your child something that is genuine, I should say.
Yes, authentic. How we reach and achieve authenticity is really, it's a blessing, because I think that if you are joining anything from a monetary or a check mark off of a list situation, then you're always going to come from a bad place. You don't know it yet, even when you're creating, but I always tell people creating in chaos eventually becomes chaotic, right? Like you're thinking, if I'm writing a song that's about being at a party, I want to go experience a party, right? It's the same thing with inclusion. If you were always inclusive, you really didn't have to tout it. You didn't have to say, oh, I'm being inclusive.
Yes.
I didn't notice until jumping into the children's space and the Magic Jones space. I didn't realize how much of a lack of us was there. And the women I'm in partnership, the Magic Jones, Alexis and Aaron, are so great with how they amplify that and say, hey, great music exists in all genres. I am grateful to be genreless. I tell people that all the time. I've coined that term of being genreless. It's like, people are like, oh, because before everybody kept saying we're so progressive. And I'm like, it's progressive means I'm pushing envelopes, which I can appreciate.
Right.
However, I really can write anything. I'm not really trying to, this is not a game for me. Right. I believe in music from such a passionate space that limiting, I remember starting out as an early songwriter, it's so limiting on purpose. That somebody is like, oh, this is the box. Oh, you write for girl groups. Oh, so now you're the girl group writer. I'm like, I can also write ballads.
Yes.
Right. But what we need is, and I get it, specialists, just like in medicine, specialists are needed and required.
Absolutely.
But that's why there's general surgeons. So I'm like, it's okay to be versatile.
Absolutely.
It's okay to be versatile. And inclusion allows us to see perspective from different spaces. So you don't just jump into inclusion. You're inclusive because you don't even see the box.
Yeah.
You're not even looking at the box for the check mark. You're just like, oh, hey, I want to do a children's song.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a children's song. I want to do a country song. I'm going to do a country song. I want to do an R&B song. Oh, okay, I want to do an R&B song. It's not, but because we label things.
Yes.
The labeling is where we get so in the weeds. And the moment we jump in the weeds with labels, you will always find yourself being the opposite of inclusive. You will be exactly what you're looking to be against. Like, don't include me now, is what I'm always telling people. It's like, if you made this plan and you did this whole thing and then somebody came and was just like, hey, so where are all the people of color? And then you go, you know who I need? I need Milk. And I'm like, I don't represent the entire diaspora of songwriters and genres, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But someone is going to be offended if you only if you only want to do specialty stuff, essentially was what I'm saying. If you only do specialty, you will not be inclusive.
Right.
That means you have to start out thinking globally. You have to start including everybody.
Absolutely.
From the beginning.
Right.
Not from the 25th hour when it's like you're being pressed because you did something that's insensitive.
Right, right. Which you see a lot of times when certain actors take a certain role and then they just get put in that box that they can't come out and do anything else.
So true.
Yeah. So you're talking about Magic Jones. What is Magic Jones? Tell the audience really what Magic Jones is.
So the Magic Jones are two amazing sisters. Really, it's really the collaboration between, and the music, the Adventures of the Music Box kind of signifies our partnership.
Okay.
Because the Magic Jones is really all four of us, technically. It represents the sisters. The sisters are the fairies, Alexis and Aaron, now Grammy nominated, songwriters and musicians for children's music, right? Just really great creatives because they know what they want, and they bring glitter and glamour to everything that they touch, right? Which is such an important space in children's music. Like, a lot of times people always talk to me about how I speak to my daughter because it's very from a direct communicative standpoint, and that throws people off, right? So when you see these beautiful, super gorgeous and tall women that are singing children's music, we had to sing children's music, and no matter what position you were in. I didn't have to put on an outfit and and a suit and create a character, essentially, or a caricature of myself to be a mom.
That's
right. But with children, we always feel like we have to dumb it down to make it, and it's like, no, you can make it plain in a way that reaches them. And I feel like they do that because they inspire moms to be their full selves and authentic selves. I feel like they help children because they just sing so beautifully on the music. And I really enjoy the partnership so much. I think that they're just great creatives.
Okay, you guys also contributed to Georgia's Tech Ear Sketch music coding program. Why did you guys decide to come on and be a part of this, and talk about the necessity of it?
So Jason Freeman and team, this one was really special because we were doing their the program called the Guthman instrumental competition, and we had done it, and then so it's a grant, right? It started with a grant. One of the grant recipients wanted to use us. Dale, she's so great. Dale, she wanted to use us because of our genreless perspective. She wanted reggaeton because the program was entering schools in Puerto Rico, and she wanted us to create sounds for that bridged that gap for the creatives there. It definitely helped, obviously, that we have awards in that space. It helped that we are, we understand that music space, and we had to create the sounds that now the kids use, and that our daughter now uses. Wow. Because it's an open source program. It's insane how amazing that is. Like, Georgia Tech did such an amazing job, like just going through it. Like, imagine creating, and then I finally, as of recently, have been using it for our daughter in her coding, because she does coding during the week. So with that program is so robust. Like, it's literally creating music through coding. And if you know anything about coding, you know that the computer does what you ask it to do. Absolutely. So it has you put in the sounds, it has you layer it, put it in, like gain it, everything you would do like in Pro Tools or Logic or anything else. It has you do that, but creating the music and the track or the the composition through the sounds that are in there, inputted in through code. And so it's fascinating because just watching her do it, like, and we've been we've been doing it for several weeks now. And I'm just blown away that this is like, wow, I did this. Like, we did this thing. Like, this is just incredible, like, how he thinks.
And so this is in homes of people who want to teach their kids.
Anybody. Schools. We work with Rap Plug to do that and bring it to other, other locations and schools through Rap Plug Academy. So we do it throughout the city. But yeah, it started with our partnership with Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech kind of like created this amazing thing, asked us to be contributors, and we took it, and now we are we're able to talk about tempo and talk about BPMs and talk about all the things that are like familiar to us, but it comes from a different space because you don't put it in, the code doesn't do it. Yeah.
So I want to know what's your favorite song of a show that you've written for, because you've written for some hit shows.
It's my favorite song.
Yes.
I mean, they're all my darlings. Okay, it's messed up because like it automatically pops to my head, so I have to say, I have to be true, right? I have to be authentic. I can't I want to manufacture thoughts. But the song that always comes to mind when I'm thinking about like my favorite song has to be "Empty for You," that we did on Hit the Floor. There's so many that I truly, truly love. I mean, the recent person that said, "Oh, I want to hear the song from Mono," which was "Fell Asleep on Your Lawn." That's another one because it has whimsy and whimsical. "Empty for You" for me is just one of my favorites because it's such a like the song describes the scene that they used it for describes exactly what it's like. They did it perfectly, like they synced it up perfectly. That's why they call it sync, but they synced it up perfectly with the scene that was happening. It was it's about a relationship that is going, well, but the other person is feeling like you're not serious, and so it's like, no, it's like whenever you like, just know, as long as you lay here in this bed, I'm keeping these sheets empty for you, like just for you, right? So it's like, don't let anything else distract you from the fact that you belong here with me.
Wow, I like that. So, dream project. What is your dream project that you would like to work on?
I think there's so many amazing creatives in the television and film space. I'm just happy to be a part. I want really good storytelling. That's really it. I can't say dream project is Inception. I want to start from Inception with you. I want to be in the writer's room. And fly on the wall, not adding any control. I don't want to be a script writer.
Right.
I want to hear what the script writers want to do. And then whatever makes it into the final cut, I want to be composing alongside that space. I want to think about music from that space. I want to add in lyrics from the lines and come up with the storytelling from the music the same way that they do. That's the ideal project for us.
Yeah. So what's next for Milk Sizz?
What's next? Creating more space, creating more opportunities, allowing, we've been fortunate to, because of our television and film space, we've been fortunate to add opportunities for a lot of singers and other co-writers to be a part of some of the projects that we worked on. So just a lot more of that, and creating, and actually creating physical space. We want to create physical space where, production teams can come in and kind of do exactly what we're talking about, creating from inception. They can spend time, they can create freely. So that's really my next space, which I'm excited about.
I'm excited too. I'm excited to see it come to birth, and that the listeners out there will be able to continue to come into the world of Milk and Sizz. So listen, tell the audience how they can find you.
Well, we're available everywhere. No, just joking. Everything for us is always going to be Milk and Sizz, which is MILK SIZZ.
Yes.
So everything is at Milk and Sizz, at milksizz.com. Everything. Yeah. And then, of course, our platforms Soundboard, which is SNDBRD.
Where you guys heard it from one half of Milk and Sizz. I want to thank you for coming on and sharing some gems with our audience. And we look forward to seeing a brighter future for you too.
Thank you. I love it here.
Yes, thank you. I enjoyed you.
Well, that's a wrap for us today. But make sure you tune in every first and third Tuesday of the month to catch more jewels on I Do Film. Follow us on all social media platforms at I Do Film Atlanta, and don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the podcast. I'm your host, Cardelia Hunter. Thank you for joining. I'll see you next time.